Welcome to the Co-Movement Gym podcast. This week we are talking with Dr. Chad Walding. Chad is a doctor of physical therapy and co-founder of Native Path, a successful wellness and whole body health company offering a variety of whole food nutrition products and programs. Through his work and nutrition products, he helps people all over the world improve their quality of life from the inside out by speaking, writing, and educating others on how to live life focused on true health. The Co-Movement Gym podcast is sponsored by Native Path Supplements, Lombardi Chiropractic, and A Dog's Day Out Doggy Daycare. Mention this podcast or use the promo code in the episode description for a nice discount on us. Chad, welcome to the podcast, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, Josh, I'm good, man. So good to be back on the podcast. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I always enjoy chatting with you. We have a lot to get to today, so let's jump right into it. First question, it's a random question, but I know you have some experience with this. Why are there fast food restaurants in hospitals?
It's a very, very good question. I talk about this a lot, right? Like as a physical therapist, my first internship was in Houston, Texas, and it was at a hospital that is world renowned for its treatment in heart disease. And on the first floor was a McDonald's, right? And I would go down there and I would see doctors and nurses eating McDonald's. I would get patients out of surgery from heart disease, and they would ask me to wheel them down to the McDonald's to eat. And like this is when I was 24, 25, and I didn't know much about nutrition at that time, but I knew that McDonald's was not good for my health, right? As an athlete, I knew that if I ate that, I wasn't as fast or as strong, I didn't recover as well. I was so confused why a McDonald's was in a hospital, right? So the reason why, I think, like you could get into like, oh well, the money and the profits and all this. I think there's just a certain level of a lack of awareness in our culture, in our conventional medical system, with food and health, right? And there's a Wendell Berry quote that I always go back to, is that we have a food system that knows nothing about health, and we have a health system that knows nothing about food, and people are being like very misled in all of this, right? We're not really getting to the root of the problem. There's very little value in true nutrition. When someone goes to their doctor with an issue, the doctor often isn't educated in food. They're not taught that in medical school. It's not necessarily like they're bad people. They're very good people. They have very good intentions, but the focus on health as it relates to food has never really been there in our society. So you'll see it all the time. I mean, I was at a hospital recently, and there was vending machines, and there was a snack bar with really poor nutritious food. And I really wait for the day where we go to the hospital and there's things like bone broth and grass-fed beef and like good soups, and everything's fresh, because it sets the tone for health, right? And the message that we want to send people. But as far as why, I think the root of it is just a lack of awareness, a lack of understanding. You could call it unconscious aware thinking. But really, I think that's at the root of a lot of the things going on, is just people in our society and really in the healthcare system are not aware of that, and are not making that connection to the point where it's making any difference.
Do you think that culture, the medical culture, the doctors and nurses, do you think that their awareness is at this point maybe increasing? Because so much of this is like old news, like vegetable oils, seed oils, refined carbohydrates, and its relation to, like you said, heart disease, cancer. Like, this isn't like groundbreaking stuff that we found out yesterday. So like, do you see, because I'm
Yeah.
sure you have, a lot of conversations in the field, like with these people, are they coming around to it at all? Because like at first you mentioned that you don't think that it's necessarily like profits and good business and whatnot. I'm not sure. I think that might have something to do with it, but I don't think it's necessarily the leading piece. But I don't know, like, are you optimistic that they're coming around to that food is medicine, and you're distributing medicine and trying to heal people, but yet feeding them poison one level lower in the hospital?
Yeah, I sense that a lot of people in the medical industry, a lot of patients people in general are really becoming more aware of this issue. And I think a lot of that has to do with like what you said, specifically in the past, I would say 15 years. Like we had a huge awareness with this paleo movement and bringing light to the importance of food. So more practitioners, more nurses, more doctors are taking part in those things and understanding it, right? And they themselves are starting to change. Like that's really where it starts to happen. Like practitioners themselves have to change. So I think the awareness is increasing for sure. But I think as far as like the process, there's still more to be done. Like if a patient has this issue and they go to work on this issue or seek some resolution towards it, there's still some disconnection there, like in terms of what gets prescribed,
Mhm.
and like an investigation of
Mhm.
how are you eating, how are you moving, how are you living your life. We're still very quick to here's the pill, here's the pill, right? Because that's the reward
Mhm.
system. That's the how the system is being incentivized right now through that's where it is with money, right?
Mhm. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so your company, you're the co-founder of Native Path Supplements. I take a lot of your supplements. I'm a huge fan. You're a podcast sponsor. We've known each other for many years. But one thing I don't know is, how did the company get started? Can you just give me like a 101 version of taking it from nothing to something, and now it's, a mega company, an amazing big company? Like, what, how did it get started?
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey. I think we've been doing this for like 12, 13 years now. But it all started with, so from my perspective, me just learning about indigenous cultures and their health. I got really into the paleo movement, CrossFit. I started learning about Weston Price, who studied these indigenous cultures and
Mhm.
found very little to no chronic diseases in those cultures when they were eating in their natural ways, moving in their natural ways, living in their native habitat. But if they were living down the road with the same genetics and they were adopting to modern lifestyles of food and flour and sugar and toxic fats and all that stuff, they were having these issues. So I was looking at this from the perspective of someone being inside the conventional healthcare model. So I was looking at it from health, and I was also looking at it from performance, right? Being in CrossFit with you and trying to get stronger and faster. I wanted to maximize that and get the most nutrition I could. So I just started giving lectures at all these gyms around Austin and talking to everyone I could about this. And what happened is I ended up going to take a trip to Colorado to go visit a friend, as my wife kind of had some friends come visit her. And I went to go hang out with my friend, and I met this other guy, and his name was Chris. And I was telling him all about like everything I was learning. And he was trying to lose weight, and he had this double chin and redness all over his face, despite working out really hard, despite eating the way he thought he should be eating. And I was like, okay, just stop, just stop doing that. Here, try this, try eating this way, try working out that way. And he like it totally blew his mind because it was everything opposite of what he thought was right at that time. And Chris is a very gifted online marketer. Like he knows how to create traction in this world. I didn't know anything about this whatsoever, but I had a huge passion for health and an intention to help people. Anyway, long story short, he came back to Austin a year later, and it was for an internet marketing conference. And he looked completely different. I hadn't talked to him the entire year, but he came. He's like, hey, can we have lunch? And I saw him, and I was like, totally different guy. And he said, the stuff you told me in that like 2 hour span completely changed my life. Right? I feel different.
Wow.
I'm now telling my friends, and they're eating different. I'm working out different. And he's like, I don't know how much you like doing physical therapy or how much you like coaching or what you want to do, but you helped me in a big way, and I want to work with you to get this message out to more people and help more people, right? So that's what we did. My wife and I partnered up with Chris. We started a blog at that time. It was called The Paleo Secret, and it was just
Mhm.
basic information about how to eat, how to move, how to live according to what our biology wants. We built traction around that. We started a thing called the Paleo Secret 30-day challenge. We started driving a lot of traffic to that. People would go through this program for 30 days, take before and after pictures, and the results were like phenomenal. We got more change, and I could really see the power of using technology and it's putting out a message and creating a community online, because we reached, I mean, I think I think within a matter of like 2 years, we got a reach of over like 2 million people on our list, and so many people went through that program,
Wow.
right? But it was just information. Yeah, we didn't have any products at that time, and then they would ask us like, what products do you recommend? And we would always go back to this philosophy of like, what what kind of things did our ancestors get in their native natural diet that we're not getting today, right? And for instance, like collagen was the one of the first things that popped up, right? um, our ancestors would get plenty of collagen when they would eat nose to tail, and they didn't have to supplement with this because it was a natural part of their diet. And in our modern diets, we simply don't get enough of it, right? So for instance, we would recommend collagen, other companies products of collagen, and it still wouldn't quite meet our standards. So eventually we're like, hey, let's have our own collagen, and let's create our own brand where we can have our own message, because we knew the paleo movement was going to die at some point. It was going to kind of phase out. So we did that. We came up with native path collagen. We also recommended things like krill. We came up with native path krill, probiotics, and now we have a whole line of over like 30 products. But it's all based on this principle of like, let's get back in alignment with our biology and make up for the things that we're not getting in our current diets today, that our bodies really expect and our bodies really need to function and perform its best. So that's essentially how it started with Native Path. And for the past 5 years, we've really grown, like ever since the pandemic hit. We were already a remote company. So when the pandemic hit and everyone started working remote, we were primed for that. It didn't slow us down one bit. We started to reach more people in a different way at that time. And now it's become something beyond my dreams. We have I think close to 90 team members now. We just hit our millionth customer under Native Path, and it is like the sky is the limit.
Wow.
And I'm so grateful for the journey and what we've learned and all the people that we've reached. Like that is like a blessing beyond my dreams. I'm so grateful for it.
Wow. So you and I both know as entrepreneurs that the market will respond positively or negatively to a good product or service or a bad product or a service. What do you attribute the success of Native Path to?
So I think a big part of it, a very big part of it is our culture. Like, we have an incredible culture, and we're real big on embodiment. We have these things called Monday culture calls, and we don't talk about business at all. We don't talk about marketing. We don't talk about how to position things in this way, or what the data looks like, or stats. All we talk about is our values, and encourage people and
Mhm.
educate people on our team. Like this goes back to the McDonald's at the hospital, right? Like I did not like seeing um, doctors overweight. I didn't like seeing nurses smoking, right? I wouldn't go to a dentist with bad teeth, right? So we're a health company. So we really encourage everyone to participate in this lifestyle of eating and moving and thinking, right? So everyone on this team is extremely passionate about what we're doing, and their energy goes into their work. They work very enthusiastically. There's a lightness to it. There's a sense of humor to what we do, but there's also a sense of excellence. And there's some principles of training that you and I both have learned in the gym through focus and repetition and always getting better, better, and
Mhm.
better. So that culture, that central culture, really creates the tone of everything that we do. It's the tone of how our customer experience team talks to our customers. It's in the tone of our articles that we put out. It's in our branding. And there's something about Native Path, I think, that people really resonate with. Like they look at the products, they try the products, and they're like, yes, that makes sense. That's not the McDonald's in the hospital. This is what feels right to
Mhm.
my body, my mind, my soul, my spirit. It's connected to nature. But the foundation of it, as far as why it's doing what it's doing, is really the embodiment and the excellence that goes behind our people and our products. Our products are just, they're as pure as they can come. We have a very high standard in terms of everything we do. Um, Chris and I are both very strict on what we allow into our product line, and no fillers, no BS, so to speak. So I think people really resonate with that. They resonate with our message, and the culture itself is really pushing everything forward.
Yeah, the one thing that drew me to your supplements years ago was the quality. And so, I read these articles, with, arsenic found in protein powders, and, you don't know what you're
Yeah.
getting in this or that, or the probiotics are dead. And like, you're spending a lot of money on supplements. And I would say the majority, I don't know percentage, but the majority of supplements out there very well could contain little to nothing in terms of what they're saying they're giving you, and or the quality could just be so poor that you're not absorbing it. And that's a big thing I read a lot about, is just the absorption of the supplements you're taking. Like, are you
Totally.
even absorbing it? And, so you guys you do a lot of like organic, grass fed, clean sourced, you understand like the proper combinations and the ratios of certain supplements and adding certain things in to help with absorption. And so that for me goes a long ways. And I know our following and people at the gym that take native path supplements, they appreciate that too. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and you're right on the money. It's all about absorption. Like absorption is the key. It's the key with like what we eat too. It's like you're going back to just protein. It's not just that you eat protein, it's how well you absorb the
Mhm.
protein. So a lot of with the supplements, the higher the quality, the better we're going to absorb it, right? And a lot of people are just wasting money on supplements that don't really do anything.
What has been the biggest business challenge thus far? You guys started out obviously as like a two-person gig. And now I think if I heard you correctly, Chad, you said you have 90 employees. That's pretty amazing growth, but I'm sure it's come with its share of challenges. And so, what has been one of your biggest challenges?
Well, lately we don't have as many challenges as we used to. We hit a point in 2019 where we had a huge challenge. Like we nothing seemed to be working. Our margins weren't right. We really weren't expressing the benefits of our products in a good way, and that really helped me understand the importance of good marketing and copywriting, so people understand the value of the product and saying it in a certain way that it gets their attention, speaking to a certain type of customer. I'd say the biggest challenge for us now is maintaining our culture, because we don't have a base, we don't have a home office where everyone's together. We're completely remote, right? And so to get 90 people all across the world, and we have people on so many continents now working for us, to get everyone bought in and aligned with that, when you have so many people spread out, to contain that is probably the biggest challenge and probably the most important thing, so everyone's bought in, right, in doing that.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't have experience running a remote only company, but I can see where that could be a challenge. But you're obviously doing a great job. Let's move on now with let's talk about three different supplements that you guys offer. The first being collagen. I'm just curious. I feel better when I supplement collagen. And I can't really say what. I know my joints hurt less. Maybe inflammation goes down. I'm not sure, but I feel better, so I take it. So, what are the benefits of supplementing collagen?
Yeah, so collagen is one of the most abundant proteins in the body. And like I said earlier, our ancestors would get plenty of collagen in their native diet, and they would eat nose to tail, they would make homemade bone broths. But it's one of those things in our modern culture we're just not simply getting enough of. So supplementing with it is incredibly important, right? And collagen makes up what I like to say is like the structure of your body. Like there's almost nothing that doesn't involve collagen, whether it's your skin, your nails, your tendons, your teeth, your gut lining, your bones involve collagen, right? So it really makes up the structure of your body. And it's like this magical molecule. They've done studies on collagen where they inject mice with collagen, and they'll like break a bone or something with the mice, right? And they look at what's happening to the collagen under the scope of an MRI. And what they'll see is the collagen doesn't just go to like random places all over the body. It specifically goes to areas in the body that are damaged and need repair. So there's something like Kate Shanahan calls it like a magical molecule. Like it has this intelligence behind it and knows where to go, right? So it's so important. And as we get older, I've noticed this as well too. Like my joints really need it. My when I work out, if I'm not taking it, I can tell, and I'm like, I'm a little stiff there. If I don't take it for a while, it's even like my hair, like in the back of my head, starts to go away. So I noticed that like I need to take it to keep up the resources that I need to keep my body going and feeling young and energized and doing all those things. But there's also, like what we were saying with quality, there's a huge variation with collagen, right? There's a lot of collagen out there that is not as effective. It's not as absorbed very well. You hear things like multi-collagen, and to me, that's very much like watered down collagen. So the most bioavailable and absorbable forms of collagen are type 1 and type 3 collagens from the bovine hide of cows, right? Not fish, not chickens, like just go to cows. They're mammals. We're not pescatarians. So like there's a thing about collagen that like attracts like. So you want the cow type 1 and type 3, and there's also the how that cow was raised. Just like when we eat meat, we appreciate things like grass-fed meat. If you're eating collagen that comes from China and a cow is raised in a feedlot and that cow is eating grains and they're trying to fatten up that cow, so they're giving it lots of hormones, and that cow gets sick because it's eating grains and like living on dirt in close quarters with other cows, they'll give it antibiotics. If you're taking that type of collagen, that's not going to be a very well absorbed collagen, and it won't be near as effective because it's not near as high as the nutrition density of the collagen that you would get, say, if you're eating a cow raised in more of its natural, we would say, native state, eating grass, drinking water, getting sun, never injected with hormones and antibiotics. We put that's where we get our collagen, and everything is put through like very in-depth testing. It goes through a third party. They look for any bacteria, anything that shouldn't be in there. It gets cleaned out. So what we deliver at the end is meeting that standard of excellence that we have, is like the highest, purest, most absorbable form of collagen that you can possibly get, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had a lot of clients take your collagen, and for myself included, my knees always feel a lot better. So it does work, and I'll continue to supplement that. And then you also carry a coffee creamer with collagen in it. And I know most people are coffee fans, and so the French vanilla, I love that supplement. So.
Yeah, we got some flavored stuff too with the coffee creamers. And the intention behind that is we're trying to get people off of the BS creamers that people take, with so many fillers and lots of sugar. So we put in collagen, MCT, which helps people start their day with protein and fat and a little bit of stevia, just a little bit of flavoring to it. That's a great way to have some good tasting coffee in the morning and get your collagen.
Native Path has been a podcast sponsor of ours since day one, and it's because our clients feel amazing using their supplements. While a lot of products on the market today contain useless fillers and incorrect dosages, Native Path holds to a higher standard. Native Path's ingredients are sourced from only the highest quality, properly combined nutrients, all while being offered at competitive prices. Use code COMO15, that's COMO15 at checkout, and receive 15% off each order. Lombardi Chiropractic has been Co-Movement's trusted chiropractor for the last 14 years. They have worked with hundreds of our clients, and I can confidently say they have the most knowledgeable and holistic approach to care that I have ever seen. Whether you suffer from migraines, low energy, nagging pain, or just simply want to improve your overall health, I highly recommend contacting the team at Lombardi Chiropractic. Mention the Co-Movement Gym podcast and receive 50% off your initial consultation and x-rays. Here at Co-Movement, we put a lot of energy into helping you become happy, healthy, and strong. But we're not the only ones needing a good workout. That's why a dog's day out is the best place in Central New York for your pet to spend their day. Your dog will be as happy and healthy as you when you let them run, play, and socialize instead of just sitting on the couch waiting for you to come home. Give your dog the active day out that they deserve. Mention this podcast and get a free day of Doggy Daycare at a dog's day out. So let's switch gears now. I have a question with water intake. And so when someone sweats, which we're sweating all day long, whether we're moving or not at some level, what happens when you only drink pure water all day and you don't supplement sodium or electrolytes? What happens within the body?
We don't absorb it, right? So a lot of people are just drinking water, but that salt, specifically the salt, is really what encourages the absorption of the water so it can actually get into your cells and does the thing that it's intended to do, right? And salt is another thing that, again, our native ancestors would get plenty of it. They would preserve a lot of their food with salt, and they would have the salt naturally in a lot of the water they drink. We're not getting that in our culture today. Like people are just drinking straight water, and they can still be very, very hydrated. So going back to absorption, that salt is very important, and also the potassium and magnesium is very important for minerals and to get all through the body that are very important for the nervous system, for the recovery of muscles and things like that. And like magnesium, for instance, is another thing that we're not getting near enough of because the topsoil in our land has completely changed because of the way farming practices have been happening over the past 100 years. We're going in and putting in Roundup and pesticides and herbicides and churning it, but not replenishing it with good quality soil. So in our foods and in our liquids, we're lacking a lot of sodium, a lot of potassium and magnesium. So it's really important to have those minerals in there, not only for the absorption, but that's really what makes the difference in our recovery, in our mental health, in our brain function, and our nervous system is really relying on that.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. Everything that you just said is so important. We have seen many, many clients through the years that they drink a lot of water all day long and they have low energy, they have brain fog, they have muscle cramping, which you wouldn't think that because they're drinking water. And they pee like every 30, 45 minutes. And we get
Yeah,
them on an electrolyte supplement such as yours. It's called, I think, Native Hydrate. And I
native
can't
hydrate.
tell you,
Yep.
it's hysterical. Like Wednesday night, we had a client here, the same thing. It's the same story over and over. He's like, oh, I'm peeing way less. I'm absorbing the water. I feel fuller. I've got more energy. And yeah, he's supplementing electrolytes. And so for people out there drinking, 3/4 of a gallon, a half gallon, a gallon of pure water a day, and you're not getting in the proper amount of electrolytes, I can guarantee you don't feel as good as you could if you supplement it.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. I remember, I think it was probably 12 years ago, I just started waking up and putting a big pinch of salt in every thing of water I drank. And that really opened up my eyes on the importance of minerals, and the difference it made. And I was someone who was go to the bathroom all the time because I was drinking a lot of water, but I wasn't putting salt in it. And I would wake up in the middle of the night to go pee 3 or 4 times. And that's something people don't really kind of put the dots together, is like we're peeing stuff out because we're not absorbing it, right? And the salt is what helps us
Yes.
absorb it, right? So, and then it starts to affect sleep, and everything kind of starts to spiral downhill, right? So it's a really important thing for recovery, function, and again for like sleep and things like that.
There's two other things here I want to mention to our listeners. There's obviously a lot of electrolyte products out there, but two things with the hydrate that you offer that I enjoy is that I've been finding that the competitors have like 800 plus milligrams of sodium per serving. And I think hydrate has around 200. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Hmm.
But that's more of a reasonable amount of sodium for a non-endurance
Yeah.
athlete for per serving size. And you guys are also blending it with um, minerals and there's certain vitamins and there's different supplements in the mix. And so can you speak to both of those, Chad?
Yeah. So one of the things we did is we added BCAAs in there. So branched chain amino acids. We have 9 different amino acids in the native hydrate. And amino acids are another thing that it is so important for muscle strength, right? Those are the building blocks of our muscles, and you can look at the studies and see what happens. We age very quickly when we don't have muscle strength, right? And we start to lose function. Things go down. Our longevity is highly dependent on maintaining the strength of our muscles. So we put BCAAs in there for that reason. But there's also a lot of studies that show, some of these were done by the military, that show that the BCAAs with the electrolytes helps you further absorb the electrolytes, right? So you could be taking electrolytes on itself, or you could take it without BCAAs, but the more absorption is going to happen with those extra amino acids. And I also used to take a lot of those electrolytes with 800, maybe sometimes 1,000 milligrams of salt and sodium. But for like 99% of the population, that they're not ready for that. That's just way too much, and they're not sweating out enough to need that many electrolytes. So we looked at it and we saw that 250, right around there, is a good level for majority of the population, right? Where you're getting what you need, but you're not overdoing it, because that can be a problem as well. And the other thing I didn't like about a lot of those other electrolytes is they just put sugar in there. It is like, if I go to Whole Foods and I'm looking for other electrolytes, every single one of them has sugar in there. It is so hard to find electrolytes in there. So we put no sugar in there, because there's really no need to put sugar in there, and you can make it taste just as good with more natural things like stevia, right? So yeah, it was all about the BCAAs to help with absorption, the right amount of electrolytes, and coming up with good flavors. We have three really good flavors. Like, I think we knocked it out of the park. We did so many testings back and forth for almost like 6 months. We have a peach mango, a wild berry, and a tangerine, and we love those so much. Everyone's favorite seems to be peach mango, but you know, you have to try and see what you like. But we're probably going to come out with some more flavors too. But I love the electrolytes, and I'm super stoked on them.
Yeah, the peach mango is sitting in my cupboard here at home. So it's funny that's your
Oh yeah.
favorite. It's my favorite too. So let's move on. I read an article the other day. I was telling you this earlier before we were live. It's titled 70 Years of Nutritional Decline. And it was about how our foods today contain up to 40% less nutrients than foods did 70 years ago. And so a few things with that. Have you heard similar statistics? And then, you know, what are your thoughts on that? Like, the biggest thought I can think of now, and I say this a lot here at the gym, is just eating whole foods now. It's very hard to get enough of the vitamins and minerals and, you know, macronutrients and all of that important stuff. You need to supplement at some level now, unfortunately, and that's because the foods don't contain the nutrients that they used to contain. So what do you think about that, Chad?
Well, that goes back to what I was saying about the topsoil, right? And the farming practices and the way things are done, right? Yeah, almost none of a cucumber today is not like a cucumber 50 years ago, right? And same with carrots, same with anything you want to talk about with the nutrients. And it's all because of the farming practices and what's happening with the soil, how it's been depleted with magnesium. A lot of the natural microbiome, you could say, of the actual soil itself has been killed off. It's been very dry, and that's what goes into the actual food that we eat. So we could be eating what looks like a great meal, right? Like right in front of us is our vegetables and our meat. But we have to think about the current context of the modern day, is that food came from a place that is not necessarily as healthy as it used to be. So when we ingest that today, it's still not enough. And I will always say that food is the foundation. We always want to start with food, as real, as whole, as nutritionally dense as possible. But in most cases, it's just not enough, right? We need a little bit more than that, and that's where supplementation, I feel, is very important. So we make up for that with things like collagen. We make up with things like electrolytes, and then a big one that we looked at with nutrition and the minerals and everything was we can come up with a good greens formula that makes up for a lot of the things that are lacking in the natural food. So we came up with native greens, which has over 20 vitamins and minerals in there. Everything is the highest possible quality. that you can have in there. And I like to say it's like a whole multivitamin in one little scoop that gets you
Mhm.
all the nutrition that you would be missing from what's happening in the food.
Yeah, it's easy and it's convenient, and that's important. People don't have the time to be eating, 10 cups of vegetables a day to make up for the lack of nutrients that's in it. So you can just take a scoop of native greens and you'll be okay.
Yeah, and you can put it in your smoothie. You can put it in your water. It's a good way. It's insurance, right? It's insurance to make sure you get all the things that you need on a daily basis, to make your body strong and have good energy.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So let's switch gears now. So you and I met years ago, gosh, I think 2005, training under James Fitzgerald, OPT, as he's formerly known as. And you and I, we rode the CrossFit train together for years. But I'm curious now, I'm 41. You know, what does your training look like now? Like on a 7-day week, you're a fit guy. I follow you on Instagram. You look great. You move well. So you're doing something right. But I'm curious, what does your 7-day week look like?
So, yeah. So, and it has been, dude, first of all, it's great to be on that journey with you. I've been thinking a lot about James and those early lessons that we always learned. The things that he taught us, and like that was such a good ride. And one of the things he said was that always stuck with me was fitness evolves. He was like,
Hmm.
fitness evolves. The things you're doing now and what's working for you now, it will be different when you hit 40. It'll be different when you hit 50 and
Hmm.
60. And I have found that to be true. I'm 45 now, and there's the other side, right? And no matter what I do, I'm not going to be as fast or as strong as I was when I was 35 or when I was 25. And I have to just accept that, but really think about what's the best thing for me, right? So my fitness now, in terms of the schedule, looks very similar. I always work out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I rest on Thursdays, and I work out on Friday and Saturday. And Thursday is like a recovery day where I really focus on mobility and kind of just staying as limber as I can. I might do some light aerobic work. Lately, there's been a lot going on in my life, which we can get into. But lately, I've gone back to like really fast, efficient, 20 to 30 minute kettlebell complexes. I love kettlebell complexes. It's minimalistic, and I can get all my joints expressed in every single push, pull, bend, carry pattern I want. So what I typically do is some sort of complex that takes anywhere from like a minute to 2 minutes, and it's intense, right? It's enough to get me in 1 minute. It feels like a 400-meter sprint almost in terms of the aerobic system, but it's
Hmm.
also using muscles. So I'm working like the aerobic system and the CTP system in the same thing. I'm working a lot of muscles and a lot of aerobic at the very same time. It'll be about 1 to 2 minutes of work, and then rest 2 minutes, and then repeat that 5 times. And again, it's like full expression. So like this morning, for instance, I've been doing this type of workout where I'll do uh, 10 to 15 ring push-ups, and then I'll do 12 rack lunges, walking step through lunges on the right, 12 on the left, and then I'll come back and do 20 switch swings. That takes me about a minute and a half, and then I'll walk for 2 minutes, and then I'll come back and just repeat that 5 times, right? So that model is something that I've been doing a lot. And I've also before that, when I had, and I'm doing that because I'm a little short on time these days. But when I have more
Hmm.
time, I really love a lot of the functional bodybuilding stuff that Marcus has put out. That's
Yes.
that really incorporates a lot of good mobility stuff and good lifting and good pauses, and really strict on tempo training. I absolutely love tempo training because it trains the neurological system, expresses full range of motion, and it just gets those positions stable, in deep squats or like holds at the bottom. So the intention is really more focused on longevity and not getting hurt. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to have my body hurting in any way. So I'm not trying to break any
Hmm.
records. I'm not trying to break my snatch record anytime. Anytime. And that's another thing too, is about 5 years ago, something happened. I think I was going overhead and I did like a really heavy push press double, and I felt something snap, and I was like, oh man. And it was like a month or so later, I just woke up in the middle of the night, like screaming in pain. It was the worst pain. And I went to the doctor, I got an MRI, and it was the torn labrum. And I'm like, golly gee,
Oh,
what am I
wow.
going to do about this? And then they looked at it, and it also had severe arthritis in that shoulder. So something must have happened where I tore the labrum. I, things weren't getting in there enough, and the actual joints itself started to change. So I never got surgery. And I'm a physical therapist, so I all I've been doing is maintaining that range of motion and moving it around, and not doing things that make it worse. So I really had to be careful with overhead movements, and most of my upper body stuff is just horizontal pushing, horizontal pulling, but really had to be
Hmm.
careful. If I do a lot of hangs to really decompress the shoulder, and that feels good. But I have a torn labrum, and I don't have any pain like at all whatsoever unless I do those things, right? So yeah, the intention of staying pain free, keeping function, and doing it in ways that don't hurt. But I love complexes, I love holds, I love tempo training. I don't push the limits. I don't do much Olympic lifting anymore. I haven't snatched in a long time,
Hmm.
but it's still fun, and the gym is always like it's a home to me. I love it so much, and I learn so much about myself in the gym. But as James said, fitness evolves. Fitness very much evolves, but it's keep moving, man. We gotta keep moving no matter what, you know.
Yeah, that fitness evolves over time. That is so true. I talked with James not that long ago, maybe 6 months ago. He was on our podcast a year ago, but then we were exchanging some emails after that. And he was saying something along the lines of like, if the current activity that you're doing has a futile ending, you should reconsider it. And so when you look at like these really heavy max lifts or say a combat sport
Yeah,
or something, if it has a futile ending, then, if you're in it for longevity and health, maybe you should reconsider. And he said that. And ever since then, I've been doing very similar to you, generalized weightlifting, stability work. I do run, bike, swim, modest amount, not a lot. But yeah, it's about feeling good and not injured. I don't want to be
yeah,
65, 70 years old and, with a gimp, or I can't hike to the top of a mountain, or I can't go on an elk hunting trip. I don't want to be that
yeah,
person. And so weight training definitely is where it's at. So that's cool. You're also doing those kettlebell complexes, which I'm a huge fan of. So for people listening, you may not know what that is. With kettlebells, you're going to do, say, a clean into a push press, into a kettlebell swing for multiple reps over time, and then you rest and you repeat. There's many variations, but for as far as time goes and bang for your buck and time, that's where it's at. Is those complexes are great.
yeah. I love complexes. I just walk out of there feeling so energized and so good. And another thing I do always is I always walk in the morning, and I always walk in the evening, and I always try to line that with sunrises and sunsets. Typically about a 20 to 30 minute walk, preferably unplugged, in nature every day. And I'm finding that's really good for my mental health, my happiness, just to keep me grounded. It gives me space to think. But I think, like, if nothing else, we should be walking, and walking a lot, walking a lot. You mentioned like hiking up the mountain. I never want to stop being able to hike up the mountain. Like, so keep hiking, keep doing it, keep doing that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the walking doesn't get as much credit as it should. We're a huge fan of that here. If we work with people that need to lose a lot of weight, and exercising intensely isn't the way for them to start, we prescribe walking,
Yeah.
and then obviously cleaning up your nutrition. Like that's where that person
Mm-hmm.
starts. We do a challenge here called an Easy Fit Challenge. We've had huge success with it. where people will do 28 days. They walk or run 10 miles per week. They fast 1 day per week for 24 hours. And then their liquids are only water, tea, unsweetened tea, or black coffee. And that's a 3-step 28-day easy fit challenge. And the walking is a huge component of that. And people lose weight, they feel great, they detox, and it's super simple.
That's great. I mean, and that's a great example of the right prescription for the right person with where they're at, right? Many people, they're overweight and they try to do way too much, way too soon, and they're not focusing on the things that are going to make the most difference for them at that time. And for most people, changing the liquids, changing what you have for breakfast, and just moving will get you some momentum. And then you start getting that momentum, and everything changes with your mind. It's like, oh, I can do this. This is happening. I'm getting better, which leads to the next step. And now we can do some resistance training. Now we can go a little faster. Now we can dial in a little bit more on nutrition. But that's a great first place to start for sure.
Yeah, there's you and I are very familiar with this, but it's too many people start out too fast. You know, they want to go from no days a week of training to 6 days a week. They want to go from eating complete shit to eating perfect. You know, it's just, I believe in small prescriptions and small wins to build confidence, like what you said, and you get used to winning and then you build momentum over time. That is so understated in today's social media world where we have to keep up with the Joneses. Same thing with finance or business. Like, you know, if your goal is to save money, you know, how about $10 a month more instead of $1,000 a month more? You know, you got to get those wins in. And we really harp on that with people. But especially from the food and exercise place, you have to make it doable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So there's this piece, Chad, on your website I really enjoy, and I'm going to read it to everyone listening. It's called On the Path or Off the Path. And this is a checklist for people. So if you're writing things down or want something to really walk away with, Native Path on their website provides this list that I really enjoy. And so whole real food versus fake processed food, pure supplements versus low quality supplements, high protein intake versus low protein intake, healthy fats such as avocado, coconut, and olive oil versus seed oils such as canola, sunflower, and vegetable oil, water, tea, and coffee versus sodas, juices, and energy drinks, fruits, vegetables, and tubers versus breads, cereals, and pastas, monk fruit, stevia, and honey versus refined sugar and artificial sweeteners, walking versus sitting all day, good posture versus slouching, calm, relaxed breathing versus feeling stressed and anxious, being in community versus isolation, watching sunrises and sunsets versus excess screen time, and prioritizing sleep versus sleep deprivation. I just think there's so much there for people to take away. A lot of it people have heard, you know, frequently, but my question to them is, are you implementing it? And it was nice to see that on your website as a reminder to people that let's not overlook the obvious.
Yeah, it's a good little checklist, right? Of like of things that you can see and say, I'm doing this well, I'm not doing this well, and then making the adjustment, right? I think that's going back to when someone has an issue and they go to a conventional healthcare model, none of that stuff is looked at, right? And these things are typically the things that are causing the issue in the first place, right? You can take all the pills you want, but if you're not sleeping well and you're still having chronic fats or you're still having anxious feelings inside of your body, you're living alone, you're eating shitty foods, it's not going to get you anywhere, right? So the whole thing about native path is really recognizing that humans in our modern world have really strayed way off the path in terms of the way we're eating, moving, living. It's so far from the way that humans were eating, moving, and living for the past 200,000 years, right? In the past 100 years, we start seeing an uptick in all these chronic diseases, specifically the metabolic diseases, which were almost never present in indigenous cultures, like heart disease and diabetes. They didn't even have a word depression in many indigenous cultures. Like if you go to indigenous culture and you say, is anybody here depressed? Like we don't even know what you mean, right? So there's something that they were doing, that they were operating and obeying some laws of nature that were keeping them healthy, keeping them happy. And in our modern culture, we veered off that path, right? So we recognize that, and we want to provide a little template for people to look at and say, okay, this is where I'm off. This is where I can make an adjustment and I can move back. And the beauty of that is personal responsibility. You know, people end up taking, I think everybody wants to take personal responsibility. They just don't know how to be empowered or directed to do it. But when then they do it themselves, rather than just take something to fix this one issue, when they do it themselves, they notice it, they're then empowered. They become their own coach, their own doctor, and they fully get on that path, sort of as we say, and they can become a better, more expressed version of themselves, which is what we're really trying to do. We're here to help humans, you know, get back on this path in alignment with the way we're supposed to be eating, moving, and living.
Yeah, I believe that completely, Chad, that I do believe that everyone does want to, at some level, take full responsibility for their health and their actions, but they're lacking direction. They're lacking maybe accountability, and they're lacking a mentor or a leader or a coach to help walk that path with them. It is so important.
Totally.
Like you and I we're just talking about our former coach, James Fitzgerald. You and I have had lots of coaches through the years, whether they're business mentors, fitness coaches, you know, we go on and on and on. But I truly believe that you need to be surrounded with people to provide these checklists for you and to hold you accountable Monday morning when you don't want to do something. Um, I swear, like I am very blessed and very lucky to stand on the shoulders of giants and people in our community here that I can send text messages to, emails to, hop on a podcast with. And they help keep me aligned as much as I may help them. And so that's been a huge piece for me getting where I am. And I know that's played a big part in your life too.
It's everything. I same way. We've been blessed with very many of the same coaches and mentors and teachers, and from fitness to business to life to, you know, another thing I'm really into is music, with singing and playing guitar. There's no way I could learn how to do that on my own. There's absolutely no way. I need someone there to guide me and show me the steps and correct me when I miss the note, right? There's something to that. And to me, it all kind of comes back to the hero's journey, right? There's their hero, there's a main character, but every character has a guide. Every character needs a mentor. Every Luke Skywalker needs an Obi-Wan Kenobi, like right there, like being like, hey, I've done this before. You know, going back to tribal cultures, we really respected the elders. We looked up to them. They would share the wisdom. I've done this before you. I've gone ahead of you. I'm gonna give you my breadcrumbs. You know, and that, to me, that feels good, and it keeps me always always a student. I always like to say I'm sometimes a teacher, but I'm always a student. There's so much to learn, in the process and path of my own life. You know what I can learn. So absolutely, yeah. We need mentors. We need coaches and communities. This works better.
I think that's a great place to end, Chad. So thank you for your time today. I always enjoyed chatting. We're going to definitely have you back on here within the year. So can you tell listeners how they can learn more about Native Path, the supplements, and the great stuff that you're doing?
So probably the best way is to go to nativepath.com, and you can just see a sense of like what we're all about. You can learn more about our products. We have a huge library of articles and videos that we put up, for everything, for nutrition, for tips on movement and living. You can also follow us on Instagram. Just look for Native Path. That's where we put a lot of quick like tips and videos and things that you can do to help your health and body and things like that. And we also have a private Facebook community. I think we have over like 50,000 people in there now. So people are you can find us on Facebook, and that's a really great place because it's people are in action, you know, and that's where we see the community come together and everyone supporting each other.
Yeah, we're okay. That's great. Yeah, we will put those links in the show descriptions for people to make it nice and easy for them. I want to remind our listeners that we are going to offer a 15% discount on all of your products on nativepath.com with the code COMO15. So that's COMO15, COMO15. You get 15% off on us. Use it, enjoy it. You can use it more than once, share it with family and friends, and, you start feeling better tomorrow. So, Chad, thank you for your time. We will talk soon, and God bless.
Awesome, Josh. Thanks so much, man. Have a good one. It's good being back here.
Thanks, buddy. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting our sponsors, Native Path Supplements, Lombardi Chiropractic, and A Dog's Day Out Doggy Daycare. They help us bring you 2 new episodes each month and have a special discount just for our listeners. See the show notes for more details. Thank you, and see you next time on the Co-Movement Gym podcast.